Hey everyone. Today I have the distinct pleasure of talking with Doug Scribner, the CEO of Vault Logic. How's it going, Doug?
Good, and I gotta say, I'm the interim CEO. I'm looking for someone to replace me. I'm gonna fire myself as soon as I find someone better to run this company.
Wow. So you're not at all impressed with your performance?
Not at all. I mean, if I wasn't me, I'd fire myself instantly. No, I'm just kidding. We got to get this thing wrapped up here, but
Yeah.
you know, but seriously, I'm in the ATM business.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, it's the first Bitcoin ATM that has a regular ATM inside of it. So we're looking to expand into all the existing ATM spaces. So we're looking for someone who's got actual ATM deployment experience. And that's not me, but I'm certainly a crypto guy. So I understand the importance of exposing this to the world.
Yeah, so this is something that a lot of people, myself included in the beginning, just don't really know all about. Like, what is a Vault Logic machine, and is it just everyone wants to talk about? "Oh, I got a new ATM, it's better. Oh no, mine is better. Well, what does this do? How does this stand out from the pack? Why do we even care enough to have you on this video right now?
The hell are we doing here? Right. So the Bitcoin space was really exciting when people started introducing Bitcoin ATMs. But they only did one thing. They did Bitcoin. Maybe they did buy and sell, and maybe they did Litecoin. And so most Bitcoin ATMs, really, when you think about it, are a single service kiosk. It does one thing, crypto. Like regular ATMs, fiat ATMs, do one thing. You can get money from your bank. It's about it. Maybe you can check your balance, you
Yeah,
know? And if
back
you
in
go to
my
your
banked days, I have shoved cash and checks and stuff in there, and
yeah,
then the bank says I have it now.
right. If it's a bank owned ATM, then you
Yeah.
can, maybe a cash. These days, I think you can even deposit a check. But still, it's a single service kiosk because it does just fiat, you know? So what we did is we took these two concepts and stuck them into one kiosk. But the kiosk is really more than that. It's a multi-use cash as a service concept that can have all kinds of apps on it. It's a giant, it's a giant smartphone, you know? It's got apps on it, and the apps can do many things. Some of the apps will access the crypto abilities. Some of the apps will access the ATM abilities. Some of the apps will access the cash in abilities. Some will access the cash out abilities. Some will access the video screen. So you can do all kinds of stuff with it. So for example, we have a bill pay app on there. We've got a cell phone top up app. We have in the future the ability to send money to other countries. It's a regulatory issue we got to get over. But you've noticed here, all of these apps use cash. These are mostly cash-based apps. And the reason that's important is because we're helping the people who are in the cash system. Like you're in the cash system. You use Dash as much as you can.
Yeah.
You know the bank accounts, you probably have dirty fiat in your wallet.
Well, about like 20, $40 that I got from someone who wanted some Dash last night, but usually it's at a bare minimum. But that's the
Exactly.
thing about the bill pay thing is one thing I noticed back in the early days, there were some Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, usually just Bitcoin,
Mhm.
bill pay services floating around out there, and I don't really see a lot of them, especially there's not a lot in the US. It seems like banks don't like to have services that will eventually obsolete them. So, how does this bill pay app work on the phone, on the machine? And is there a way that that could work not on a machine, just in the great nether of the internet?
Well, the thing is, you need a way of accepting cash. So right now, a lot of bill pay services, you walk into Walmart, you stand in line, or you go to T-Mobile and you pay your bill in cash, or you go to, um, you go to the cable company and you pay your bill in cash. And this is for people who don't have bank accounts, people who are out of the system, either on purpose, maybe like you are, or because they got kicked out because of their economic status and they aren't able to participate in the system, and they're You know, they don't have a day job or something like
Yeah,
that.
I knew a person that happened to because she got divorced and
Mhm.
didn't have a permanent or address with any mail to it or anything like that, and just, well, you're off the grid now. Sorry,
Exactly.
just that
And that means
simple.
you can't shop online because you need a credit card to do that. That means you can't go to, you can't use Amazon. That means you can't book an airline ticket. So these machines, one of its is that it's going to help the unbanked and the underbanked, which Andreas Antonopoulos has been talking about for years. But there was never been a familiar interface that would help people discover crypto. So now this kiosk allows you to buy more sell minutes because you and I probably have a plan with our carrier, but a lot of people have to pay minute by minute. And they buy
Hmm.
cards and those sorts of things, and so they need a place to put cash in. Now they can do that at the T-Mobile store, or they can do that at a Walmart. But now we've got a universal kiosk that allow you to buy crypto, tap up your sell minutes, and pay your electric bill all on the same machine. Oh, by the way, for those who do have a bank account, you can pull money out of your bank account just like you would at a regular ATM.
Interesting. So does that mean, say you have poor old Mister only paid in Dash? I know a guy like that,
Yeah.
and he walks up to one of these machines, and he can go then he or she, I'm not assuming gender here, you can go pay your bills with Dash on the machine. You just go
Well,
like,
hold on. You're
yeah,
talking about paying your bills with Dash, a cryptocurrency, right?
mm-hmm,
You don't need a machine for that, right? They have bill pay services that will turn your crypto and pay your bills on your behalf.
not really in this country. They've had a lot of problems. I mean, if you can indicate some to me, I will drop them in the comments of the video. But
Yeah.
as far as I've been looking for this, and there's just
Hmm.
it's barren because the banking relationships. There are some they work for a while, and then the banks just say, "Now we're not doing business with you anymore." Now, of
Hmm.
course, for example, Australia is famous for one of their businesses, Living Room of Satoshi, accepts all kind of cryptos for bill pays, and there's been a few in Europe as well. It's a lot easier. Here,
Okay.
it's rough.
Well, so in this case, it would be a couple of step process. So you would take your Dash,
Mm-hmm.
you would sell it,
Mm-hmm.
you would get cash out. Then you would put it right back in a different side of the machine and pay your bill with it. So there is that process that you could do with our machine. It wouldn't be a direct Dash to bill pay yet, but we can do that. That is something I'm pretty sure isn't that big of a deal. It's a couple of lines of code, you know?
Yeah, and so all that would do, if I'm understanding that correctly, is it would still be the exact same thing. It just would be the cash just kind of goes wee from one feeder into the next. It's like you're still paying with cash. It just you don't have to put your grubby fingers on it.
Yeah, that could be the case. Now, the other way, some people think, well, can I take, because it's an ATM, can I put my ATM card in and then buy Dash with it or Litecoin with it? And the answer is with two steps, yes. Because the problem with crypto, people, is like, I want to use my credit card to buy Bitcoin. Well, the problem with that, we know, is that credit cards have 6-month clawbacks later where someone could claim, I never got my Bitcoin. Well, and that's why when you go around and look at the services that allow you to buy crypto with credit cards, they are very expensive and have a huge margin because of the fraud involved. So our machine kind of solves that, where you can put your ATM card in, pull out your cash. Now that's a single transaction between you and your bank. That's done. Now you can take that cash and put it right back in the other side, and now you've bought crypto with it. So it's a two-step
Interesting.
process, but there's a very important custodial step that has to happen where we're accepting cash because it's a push technology.
Hmm.
You're pulling your cash from your bank account. That's your relationship with them, and our machine has two separate tenants. Can be two separate tenants. One, an ATM processor, and then two, all other services
Yeah,
or multiple
interesting.
services.
So it's almost like when you go to Walmart and you find that crappy arcade in the back, it's not, or the hairstylist is not necessarily for. It's like you're packaging them together, but they're not. They're kind of different representatives. It's like you
Yeah, yeah.
switch your hats.
exactly. Like, someone's renting space from the Walmart to put their lens crafter in there, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
the same
sounds
thing.
like the roundabout aspect of that tips me off that sounds like the government's involved with that setup somehow. As
Well,
in the government makes it necessary to not have it completely just one. Is that at
that
all
is
fair to say?
yes. So there's the term is commingling of funds.
Mhm.
Until there is such a thing as a crypto-friendly bank, we have to make sure funds don't commingle. And even when there is crypto-friendly banks, there may be very important business reasons to allow a separate tenant to be the ATM operator, separate from a crypto operator or the bill pay operator, right? So, for example, one of our plans is to go out after, and by the way, the ATM business, the traditional fiat ATM business, is going down. They're making less and less money because the cost of servicing cash is going up and up and up. So these ATMs that you saw spring up at every gas station from Portsmouth to Vermont, right? Every gas station has an ATM in there. Those operators are not making as much money as they used to. So because it's a single service, they do one thing and they got to deal with Garda, Brinks, and Loomis, these armored car services.
Mhm.
So our machine has times the revenue streams. We've got crypto, two-way crypto, traditional ATM, bill pay, and all kinds of bill pays, including cell phone top-ups, plus an advertising stream. Plus, there's all kinds of other services that other people can invent for these machines that we haven't even thought of yet. So it's a less obsoleteable platform.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it does just about everything under the sun, and someone with a lot of imagination can, I'm sure, have a field day with it. What about the lame people who don't have a lot of imagination? What is the main so, like, for example, when you develop a new tool,
Mhm.
eventually, like, people when blockchain technology was conceived and Bitcoin was created, no one thought about crypto kitties. No one thought that that was gonna be a use for the technology.
Mhm.
People did think of one thing, though. They thought about peer-to-peer electronic cash.
Mhm.
So if peer-to-peer electronic cash is the raison d'être of cryptocurrency, that then later, because it's so powerful, you can do a lot of different things. What's like the one reason that Vault Logic exists in its current form? That it became that. Why did you make this happen? Just why?
Well, there's two questions here. One is why we make it happen.
Yeah.
One reason is I bought a crappy ATM, Bitcoin ATM. I wanted to spread the word of crypto. I wanted people like you and I
Hmm.
got it and realized the power. We're both libertarians. We're both free staters. So
Hmm.
we understand that this is the way to help liberty expand in the world, going around government, you know,
Hmm.
not trying to fight them and change laws and get lobbyists and my friend's going to run for Congress, and that's great, but it's not going to help anything. I used to be a Libertarian Party activist. I was the chair of Orange County, and my business partner was the chair of Utah.
I'm sorry, and if you need a hug, I'm here for you anytime.
Hey man, right? And so um, we realized the pointlessness of working with in the system, just like you as a free stater moved up to New Hampshire
Hmm.
to because you realize, hey, we'll just do this ourselves. That's what I saw Bitcoin as too. It's a way of increasing human freedom by offering people better choices. So I got into the Bitcoin ATM business with Will Pangman, and it was the machines we used were pieces of garbage and the cheapest materials, Windows 7 computers, and we knew there was a better way. And through connections with Will Pangman, a friend of mine, or a new friend who is now a business partner, with this crazy idea of a ATM that balances itself. So that's
Mm.
going to help all the deployers save tons of money because they no longer have to go through Loomis and Brinks and Garda to have their money transferred to banks. Banks hate crypto. Banks hate cash. ATM operators, especially Bitcoin ATM operators, have two strikes against them constantly. So that was some of the why, but really it was about, and then of course, I'm a left libertarian, which means I have, I think about poor people and helping them become wealthy. not considering, not trying to think of how we can make the wealthy become poor. I love profit and capitalism, but I want to help the poor become wealthy. Introducing them to crypto, I think, will help their lives. How do we do that when they're busy, they're broke, they're struggling, they're driving from Walmart to the T-Mobile store to the cable store to pay their bills, and then they go to somewhere else to send money overseas back home, So we made a machine that services them, that they can do all these different transactions from one machine. And by the way, there's crypto on it. I've heard of that, but I don't have any money right now and I'm busy. But it's there. And so we've introduced them with a form factor, an ATM that they're very familiar with, using a rail that they trust, cash. They don't trust the banks, probably, because they probably got booted out of the system. But they trust cash. We're going to allow them to buy crypto with cash when they're ready. And the machine will be there. It's got advertising. It's got ads for Dash. It's got ads for Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ether. And it's going to help them understand and bring them into the world that we want to create for them and help them see.
Interesting. So in a way, the whole bill pay functionality and the top ups and all this kind of stuff is almost like the fishing lure that just gets them into the crypto thing.
Right. Because, and we've got a lot of fun ways, interesting ways that we're going to help them discover it. Like, for example, if their bill is $27.32, we don't want our machines to make change. They put in $40, but we'll have an app that says, do you want this change to be converted to Dash? Or do you want this to be held? Do you want to hold this in an account that you can hold on to? So there's ways of introducing it to them and giving them incentives to do this sort of thing.
Very fascinating.
To discover crypto through just paying their bills.
Yeah, I can already imagine that, because right now, at the time of this video, there's over 2,500 merchants all over Venezuela that take Dash, and most of them are integrated, almost all of them, as far as I know, into Dash Text, which is an SMS-based wallet, because 70% of Venezuelans don't have smartphones. So Granny with her little flip phone can send and receive Dash and buy from the church's chicken down the street and buy her food with Dash. Sure, she's talking to her grandson or whatever in the U.S. who's working, let's say, outside of Katy, Texas. And he has to go pay his bills and stuff. And so say you got a machine there. He's going in. Someone says, hey, why don't you just go here? You can skip Walmart and these other places. Just go pay. And then there's this sign, this thing on the screen in Spanish that just says, get Dash to send home to your family, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, hey, Granny, that I heard about that Dash stuff. What's up with that? And then eventually he learns, oh, I can just feed some cash in here, send the digital currency to grandma, and then she can go pay her bills. I skip all the Western Union nonsense, and which honestly is probably heavily regulated / not usable in Venezuela today. And then just send it right there. And it's like, you lure them in with the easy bill pay, and then they get to send their Dash.
Right. And it's peer-to-peer, remember, too. So don't get the impression that Vault Logic is doing international money remittances. We're not. A third party could, however, remember, our machine is agnostic. We could have Western Union have an app on our machine. No problem. They would have the licenses. They would have all the regulatory requirements to make that happen for them and their customers. But certainly someone could take the change from a bill, receive Dash onto their own wallets. Now it's a peer-to-peer transaction to grandma down in Venezuela.
Yeah. And it seems like that peer-to-peer is the easiest, most frictionless way of doing things. Then, unfortunately, it's just hard to peer-to-peer everything. So that's why people do centralized institutions. There's something magical about the future, especially with cryptocurrency, where now you have a million peer-to-peer, a whole host of peer-to-peer interactions, having the smoothness or more of just using one centralized party with none of the risk.
Right, exactly. So so you're right. Our machine has centralized services in it. Bill pay is an aggregation a centralized aggregator of multiple bill pay companies. ATMs are centrally managed by banks and Visa and MasterCard, right? So, and then we also had decentralized services, the crypto side of things. So they'll start just pulling money out of the ATM like normal. Oh, this ATM's got lower fees, or this ATM's actually paying me money to take money out. Interesting concept there. So they're doing that, and then they introduced to crypto, and now they can buy crypto and then do the peer-to-peer situation.
Yeah, so how about that whole balancing thing of how do you get rid of the armored trucks that everyone hates but needs in
Right.
crypto in the ATM business?
So we have developed a concept we're calling it's so cash as a service is a interesting concept. Where we're providing a box full of cash that is accessible through applications on the system. That's cash in. So with that, all kinds of processes can be imagined. One of those processes right now, when people buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin and Dash and they're paying their bills, in other words, cash is going in, right? And one side of the ATM gets full. It's like, oh crap, it's full. Normally an BTM operator, an ATM operator says, okay, got to pull the cash out, go to the bank. Okay, well, if you have an in and out machine, that'll alleviate some of the stress, right? So you can sell Bitcoin and now your cash is going down. That's the advantage of a two-way Bitcoin machine. And we can adjust the costs and the fees charged for those depending on the capacity of the vault. So as the vault gets full, putting money in becomes more expensive. The rate for Bitcoin or Dash or Litecoin goes up from 10% to 15% to 20%. Hey, you want to buy Bitcoin? Fine. It's going to cost you 25% because it's getting so dang full. And that's going to make people maybe not use our machine. Does that mean we're losing money? No, we're making money. But on the other side, to buy that Bitcoin back or to sell the Bitcoin, a whale or somebody, local Bitcoins, can now go and say, I'll take the cash because the rate to pull cash out is lower, maybe even under spot, so that it's going to incentivize people to pull the cash out. So that's one way the machine will balance itself. And that's nothing new for a while. But we can also do that with other services like the bill pay and the ATM side. And then, so that's like first level balancing, I call it. Second level balancing is, let's say the machine is full. On the right side of the machine is where the crypto and the bill pay and the in and out is, the recyclers are. And that gets full and people aren't pulling any money out. Well, there's an ATM operator right next door. ATMs just dispense 20s. So the operator can say, hey, guy next door, I will loan you these 20s or sell you these 20s. And now you've gotten rid of all the 20s on your side by moving 6 inches. So you didn't go to the bank. You didn't call Loomis. You closed the business down after hours and you made an arrangement and you made a business contract with the operator who lives on the ATM side. That's another way of balancing. The third way, that's the most exciting, is let's say both sides are completely full and there's no bank to service you. Now, you can use a bank. There's no question. The left side or whoever can use banks if they have a good relationship. That's fine. Our machines are probably going to be Garda, Loomis, and Brink certified. The model already is with another partner of ours, so it's not going to be a big deal. You can always use those services if you want to. But we imagine that people will say, hey, this machine is full. If you come pull $500 out of the ATM like you might anyway, we're not going to charge any fees at all. Or if you pull out $500, we'll give you $520. That's another way of doing that because it's worth it for us. We've made money on the way in, so we'll get people to pull it out. And then we might send a notification on our app that, hey, the machine in Manchester is empty for whatever reason. If you
Go buy some crypto, please.
If you take that, or if you just take that $500 and put it in the machine without even buying anything, just put it in, we'll give you $500.20 credit. So
Interesting.
we've Uberized cash management in a way.
Yeah, have there been any significant tests on how that kind of shakes out in the real world? Sounds
No.
great, but it would be
Right.
it would be fun to actually try it and then see what levels, because of course with economics everything has a price. Everything has a level at which is worth it and a level at which is not.
Right.
And if you say you have like 5 ATMs around the say a small state like New Hampshire, and then one of them's getting full in one way or the other way, I wonder if there's a point. I wonder if there's a point at which you can raise the incentives for
That's
people to do your
possible.
cash management for you,
Well, that's
that
just
it
it.
that it's still worth it over getting an armored truck to go take care of it for you. Or I wonder if in some circumstances it just kind of isn't. I
Right.
wonder how that actually shakes out.
Well, there's a couple things we see, and we're going to discover this. The free market will show us what that price is.
Hmm.
And it may be the case that somebody's willing to do that for much less than somebody else. And so we imagine a signal on the app will pop up saying this machine is full. If you can pull it out, here's the incentive. And a time clock will start. No one is doing this. Well, let's make the incentive bigger until we find that point. And maybe that point is an Uber driver is going from Portsmouth to Manchester anyway. So it may not be worth it for him to do that unless he's got a ride or unless he's going that way anyway. And as our network grows and as our number of app users grows, then that cost will come down as more and more people are going that direction or have that need. And then of course at the same time, simply just adjusting the price of crypto in and out will help those people who are arbitraging between machines balance that, even without going to this third level where we're trying to incentivize the crowd, it's crowd balancing to do this for us. We may not ever need to do that, but the ability is there.
It seems like a very interesting solution to a problem that a lot of random humans in the first world especially don't really have. It seems like they just do their bank card stuff, do their payment app,
Mm-hmm.
and then they sometimes touch cash when they have to pay the gardener or something.
Yeah.
But where where did this whole passion and dedication towards these decentralized technologies come from for you? Why do you care specifically? I mean, obviously you noted your free spirit backgrounds, but where does this whole thing click for you?
Well, that's a good question. You're asking me like, where did this like desire to see other people pull themselves up, and that's what I think comes from more of the unbanked and the underbanked in researching these sorts of things. And in my libertarian party days, I was the guy who was looking for language that would bridge gaps to persuade people. So, because we believe in persuasion over force. And so many of my old school libertarian friends back in the old days were angry and yelling at people about the gold standard,
Oh
and
yeah,
they
I
weren't
remember those
persuading.
days. I was kind of one of them.
Exactly. I was one of them too. Ian Freeman was one of them also, right? Yelling at people about how wrong you are and you're stupid because you don't get economics. Well, these are people who went to public schools, or they don't care, or they don't have to care because they're suppressed by handouts. Part of this is helping people raise themselves up and discover the pride of not dependency. And I see the world and more people becoming dependent on government, which, my family comes from teachers. I worked in inner city schools. I worked at the Alternative Correctional District of Orange County, California, with gangbangers and stuff. And my sister works in downtown Minneapolis, in the rough schools. And so we see people who are never taught by public schools, by their parents, and I help them. I want to show them and teach them. And kids in particular are fascinated by markets and money, and they get it, but they're never taught it, and they flounder. And then another generation is born dependent upon on welfare systems. And instead of churches and charities, it's welfare and food stamps, and that's not cool. It's horrible. It's like the people who are thinking they're helping with this are not helping with this. So I think my passion comes from this way of trying to explain to all levels, all people, and all socioeconomics that let's help them help themselves and teach them to help themselves. And I think maybe that's where it comes from. Long about way
Yeah.
of saying.
I definitely noticed that with a lot of everyone kind of understands money in terms of like everyone understands that this is a thing that this is points in the game of life. Might not be in my entire what do we call metric for success, but this is points that you can acquire through doing stuff. And then I know people who don't know how to read, who know how to count money and know how much this is worth and how much that is worth, and if they got a good deal. It is fascinating, especially when you spark that entrepreneurial interest young. And crypto has especially been that, because like how I was just thinking about, when did I start caring? And of course I always, did some work when I was a kid on the farm and all that kind of stuff, and got some money from that. And you always hustled to a certain extent, but it didn't really care. It was just like a means to an end. There was no like, oh, what if I can go hustle and get some more of this? And I see a lot of, like, I can't imagine caring about Venmo as a 13-year-old or 12-year-old. But then I know a lot of people that care about cryptocurrency. In fact, there's an odd amount of people. There's people who are occupying late 30s, early 40s kind of professional slots at the age of 15 or 16 in the crypto space.
Wow.
Because they just, one of them works for Dash. Another one is a security researcher that I see on Twitter all the time, breaking everyone's hardware wallets in a hilarious way.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's something about, you care about this. You can kind of, with crypto, you can kind of make it work. And one thing I noticed, it's been a little, I have noticed that, when you talk about certain concepts in life, I do notice there's always socioeconomic levels of interest. You're into this, you're into that. Everyone, for example, I was a Taekwondo instructor for a long time, and an MMA fan, etc. And just the socioeconomic levels of like who's interested in that or who gets it. And one thing I notice about cryptocurrency is it's a very what would you call, a very educated, creative kind of bourgeois thing that somehow all the way down everyone knows and is interested in.
So it's like an equalizer, you're saying?
Yeah, and it's because like the like investments and 401ks and all that, like at least half of the rich parts of the world doesn't even care about that, or is just off their radar entirely. And then you get to this magic internet money stuff, and then everyone, oh yeah, I heard about that. I want to, because everyone understands it's a thing you can buy, and maybe you can get rich off of it, or at least you can get in your phone, you can send it around. And everyone kind of has an understanding of that. It is sort of the great equalizer in that everyone has a phone of sorts. Everyone has a computer, has used one. Everyone can kind of figure out how to send this stuff around. And I remember for the longest time, like I was never in the old fiat world, despite, making a full-time salary and stuff before my 20s, etc. I never thought I'd be an investor.
Right.
I never thought I'm going to buy. And then, I still don't like to call myself an investor now, but now I'm on the same wavelength as a lot of former in the old world investors who are now crypto investors. It's like everyone kind of understands that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly right. So I give a talk often that talks about, economic and monetary responsibility, and it's just not taught to people. And what is a poor person going to do? They've got an extra $5. Can they go buy Apple stock? No, they need a broker. They need a bank account. They need an online exchange. They need to do that. They have no reason to do that because they're not allowed to do that. But they can buy $5 worth of Dash, can't they?
Yeah,
And all of a sudden,
especially at 20. That's like it
yeah,
seems like that's the entry level. As most people, it's like
lottery
enough
tickets
that
take
people do it.
$5. You know,
Yeah.
$1 right now. They're turned on with $1. So I like to do this chart where right now the only thing that poor people can invest in for what they can afford is a $2 lottery ticket. $2,
Yeah.
and they can invest in the lottery, but that's not an investment. That is relying solely on chance alone. Now, that's not a way to invest because they can't control any of the outcome. It's all chance, right? And they're told by the government, you have a chance of winning $1 million, $300 million. And so poor people play the lottery, not just because they're dumb. That's not right. It's not because they're stupid. It's because that's all they have opportunity to invest in. We are giving them, with cryptocurrencies, the ability to take a risk. There's a difference between risk and chance. Risk you can mitigate through, I want to buy Dash, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, or Ether. Or I'm going to buy at this level and I'm going to sell at that level. These are all choices that can be made with $2, with $3, with $5. And they're learning about these investment opportunities, how to invest, what it means to mitigate your risk, what it means to research financial markets. And they're able to have an entry level that requires no bank account, no brokerage account, no education. And they're able to educate themselves with a small amount, and they're able to learn how to mitigate their risk instead of throwing away money on a chance. Big indication, big difference between those two concepts.
Yeah. It's definitely something that a lot of people don't think about is obviously the poor are misunderstood
Yeah.
by everyone else. But one thing I found out is people, it seems like to a certain extent, it's almost the lower in the socioeconomic ladder someone is, the smarter they are about some things. There's definitely like the sweet street smart type thing.
Yeah.
And
I got a
I
great
guess
story.
if you invest a couple dollars a week on lottery tickets,
Mm-hmm.
which please don't take this out of clip
Invest.
out of context and just
Yep.
say, "Oh, this guy's a terrible person." But if you do that, you realize that instead of if you shove it into the mattress, it's probably not going to turn into anything. It's probably just going to be a whole bunch of twos, and you're probably just going to blow it on cigarettes or something else anyway, and or someone's going to steal it. It's just But if I do this, I am like rolling the dice on my big break,
There's
and
a
I could
chance.
just get out of that.
Right. Right. So crypto, it provides more than a chance. It provides the ability to actually mitigate risk. That $2, instead of going to a lottery ticket. And by the way, if you just save $2 a week for 18 years, you would have orders of magnitude more money than if you were to invest in the lottery. Even with your statistical chances of winning, your rate is like that. Savings, lottery. And then if you add the ability to get 1% interest, it's even a little bit higher. And with crypto, we're providing the chance to do much more than that. So it's funny you mentioned that sometimes people at the lower socioeconomic levels have a real good understanding of money and the value of money because it's scarce for them. There's a kid who was 16 at juvenile hall where I used to substitute teach. And he says, I got to get a phone, man. I got people to call. Oh, yeah. You're going to call your drug dealers and your buddies no, man, I run a business. Oh, right. What's your business? I mow lawns for a living. And I got 23 guys who got to get on their routes. And he did. He managed 23 people mowing lawns for cash. Lawnmowers, and he was running around buying cheap lawnmowers at garage sales when he could afford them. And he had this thriving lawn care business. He was 16. He was not selling grass. He was mowing grass, right? And he understood management skills. He understood if I buy gas at this gas station, it's less than that gas station, because he had to. He got more education from doing that than, of course, going to public schools where they taught him absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But
I'll sort of close this out on a similar story on the other way. I know a very upper middle class preppy kid who, when he was in his teens, his mid to late teens, he was selling snowmobiles. He was flipping snowmobiles, and he was like making a good business off of it. And then the government shut him down because he didn't have a showroom with 24-hour lighting. He didn't have all this other kind of stuff. And basically we're going to limit him to do like a 2 to 3 a year or something like that. I don't remember the details. And then he's like, well, I do that in a couple of weeks. Like, what are you talking about that? And then he had to go to court and petition the court for permission to run his thriving little business. And they shut him down. And this isn't like a street kid. We're talking about the exact opposite. And it's like, the great equalizer is someone out there is trying to take away our opportunity. And the great equalizer is there is digital uncensored opportunity out there for all of us. And I think that technologies like Vault Logic really help it become more accessible to everyone. I mean, I guess you'd have to agree, since you have a good opinion of your own work, right?
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Exactly. Yeah. And that's such a great story. And young people, especially, which gives me so much hope that they're being exposed to this before guys my age and older, right? So my nephews and nieces will never know a world without the internet and without digital currencies, which they've been getting since they were like 7 years old from Uncle Doug. Right. And it's going to change the world in the best kinds of ways. And if I could, one last thing, if you don't mind. Vault Logic is doing an STO right now, security token offering, for accredited investors. If anyone's interested in earning revenue, a revenue share of the first 500 of our machines on the crypto revenues, that's what the STO is. It's not at this point, it can be converted later for equity, but for now, it's a revenue share of the crypto profits that's shared with the STO investors.
Interesting. Well, it looks like you're doing Satoshi's work. Thank you very much for being on, and I look forward to chatting to you again in the future.
Yeah, cool, Joel. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.